Welcome to sleep with myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. The waves whispered against the cliffs of Crete, their rhythm echoing the heartbeat of the sea itself. In the winding corridors of the labyrinth above, shadows of invention danced, wings of wax and feather, bound together by the hands of a man who dared to defy the gods. Daedalus, the master of creation, stood at the edge of the open sky. Around him, the air shimmered with heat and salt. His son, Icarus, watched with eyes full of wonder, and something else, something that the father recognized and feared. Longing. "Father?" Icarus said softly, his voice breaking through the hum of the wind. "What does it feel like to touch the sun?" Daedalus smiled, though his heart sank like a stone in deep water. "The sun is not to be touched, my son. It burns even the dreams that reach too close." But Icarus only looked upward, to where the clouds opened into golden fire. The boy did not see danger, he saw destiny. Every breath he took was filled with the scent of freedom, the taste of open air beyond walls and kings. Daedalus had built many things in his life: machines, statues, illusions that tricked even gods. But this was the first creation born of fear and love. He had shaped the wings not as a challenge to Olympus, but as a promise to his son: "You will not die in this prison." Feathers trembled in the sea wind. The wax glistened like amber under the rising dawn. As Daedalus fastened the straps upon Icarus' shoulders, he whispered words that were half a warning, half a prayer. "Fly low, my child. Let the sea carry you, not the sun." Icarus nodded, but his gaze was already lost to the horizon. When they leapt from the cliffs, the world seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, neither man nor bird nor god could tell where earth ended and sky began. The air embraced them both, and the sound of the sea became a song of ascent. Daedalus flew steady, wings angled to the rhythm of the wind. But Icarus, he laughed. The boy's voice rang through the clouds like the cry of a newborn god. His laughter was not of madness but of awakening, the joy of a heart that had never known its limits. Below, the sea turned to glass. Above, the sun blazed its warning. But Icarus only climbed higher, each feather glowing brighter than before. In that sacred hour, the gods themselves paused to watch. Helios, driving his chariot across the heavens, felt the tremor of the mortals rise. He whispered to the wind, "Another child of earth dares the light." And the wind answered, "He will fall." But Icarus did not hear. His wings sang against the air. The sun opened before him like a gate of fire, and for the first time he felt not fear, but belonging. The dream of flight had become his truth. The higher they climbed, the thinner the air became. The sky was no longer blue but alive, an endless veil of light that breathed, sighed, and shimmered. Icarus felt it pulse through his wings. Each beat sent ripples through his chest, as though the heavens themselves were alive and listening. He looked down once, and the sea was a distant whisper, a mirror reflecting a world he no longer belonged to. Daedalus called out through the wind, But the boy's laughter drowned every warning. The labyrinth of the earth was gone. Only the labyrinth of light remained. The sun had a voice. He heard it first as warmth, then as rhythm, and finally as words. You have come far, child of earth. Do you know what you seek? Icarus closed his eyes. He could not tell if the words came from within or above. All he knew was the pull, a longing older than fear. I seek to see, he whispered, not as men see, but as light remembers. The sun laughed, not cruelly but with sorrow. Then you will see everything, and lose the world in the same breath. His wings were changing, the feathers no longer white, but glowing gold at their tips, alive with heat, trembling with song. Wax turned liquid, running like molten glass down his arms. Yet he did not fall. He rose higher than any mortal had ever dreamed. Daedalus screamed below, but his voice could not pierce the fire. The gods leaned from their thrones. Even Helios slowed his chariot, watching as mortal fire met divine flame. And in that collision of will and wonder, the first light of courage was born, a brightness that would never die even after his fall. Icarus looked down. The sea was gone. The earth was gone. Only the horizon remained, endless, unbroken. He thought of his father, of the labyrinth, of the cage that once held both genius and fear, and he understood. The wings were never meant to escape. They were meant to transform. He spread his arms wide, and the sky itself bent around him, an ocean of fire folding into dream. From far below, Daedalus felt the air tremble. The wind carried the laughter of his son, not as echo but as music. He fell to his knees, and for the first time did not curse the gods. He whispered, "Let him fly where even the sun forgets its light." And somewhere between heaven and flame, Icarus smiled. The fire no longer burned. It sang. Each spark that left his wings became a star, each feather a new dawn waiting to be remembered. The boy had vanished, but the sky had learned his name. And when the world below woke to its first morning after the fall, the horizon shimmered, a quiet promise left behind by the boy who dared to dream beyond the sun. The sky closed like an eyelid, and the wind became still. Feathers, gold, black, white, drifted through the air, glowing like dying stars. They fell for what seemed an eternity, each one carrying the echo of laughter, the whisper of a dream too bright to fade. When at last they touched the water, the sea did not swallow them, it breathed. Waves curled inward, and the ocean itself shimmered with memory. Beneath its calm surface, something ancient stirred, the spirit of the sea, who remembers all things that fall from heaven. In the deep, where no mortal light had ever reached, the sea whispered the name of the boy, Icarus. The word rippled outward, through coral, through sand, through silence. Each creature that heard it lifted its head. Even the sleeping leviathans moved, as if in reverence. The sea goddess Thalassa opened her eyes. Her hair was made of tides, her skin of moonlit salt. When she rose from her throne of shells, the ocean itself bowed. "A child of fire has fallen," she said, "but the sea remembers what the sky forgets." She cupped her hands, and within them the last feather of Icarus glowed softly, still warm, still alive. Beneath the waves, Icarus did not die, he dreamed. He dreamed of air that turned to water, of wings that became tides, of warmth that cooled into endless calm. In his dream, he floated between two worlds, the memory of flight and the mercy of the deep. He saw his father's face in the reflection of the sea, saw the labyrinth's shadow fading into sand. And from the heart of the deep, a voice spoke, not cruel, not kind. "You have flown too high, but now you will fall forever, not in punishment, but in remembrance." Far above, Daedalus reached the shore. He fell to his knees in the sand, eyes fixed on the horizon that had devoured his son. He cursed the gods, then cursed himself, until his voice was gone. But the sea listened. Each word sank into the waves like a stone, and the ocean answered, not in thunder but in rhythm, a gentle tide that reached his feet, then retreated, as if breathing with him. Daedalus wept, but for the first time he did not weep alone. Night came. The stars burned quietly, their reflections rippling across the surface of the sea. Daedalus sat by the water, and for a moment he thought he heard wings again. Faint, distant, soft. But it was not the boy. It was the sea. Each wave that touched the shore carried a fragment of song, a melody of air and flame, of love and loss. He listened, and as he did, the ache within him softened, not healed but transformed. The sea had taken his son, but it had also given him back, not as flesh but as sound. At dawn, the horizon glowed with pale light. The sea stretched endlessly, calm as breath. Daedalus rose, his reflection shimmering beside him, and from somewhere far below, a voice, faint as the wind, whispered through the waves, "Father, I am still flying." Daedalus closed his eyes. The tide kissed the shore. The world was quiet, but alive. The sea remembered the name that heaven forgot. And every dawn after, when light met water, the world whispered it once more. Icarus. Days passed, though time no longer moved as mortals knew it. The wind changed, carrying whispers of gold across the sea. One morning, the tide withdrew farther than ever before, and when it returned, it brought something with it, a storm of feathers. They drifted across the surface like snow upon glass, shimmering with light not of this world. Each feather pulsed faintly, as if still alive, as if remembering. Where they touched the sand, they did not fade. They grew, feathers rooted into the earth, sprouting into slender spires of white and gold. The island was born, a garden of wings, blooming from the ocean's breath. When sailors first discovered the island, they found no trees, no beasts, no people, only feathers. Yet the air trembled as if full of song. The ground shimmered beneath their steps, and the sea around them was warm, not from sunlight, but from memory. The sailors could not sleep. Each night, They heard voices in the waves, soft, gentle, whispering fragments of flight. By morning, one of them would always vanish. Those who returned spoke of dreams where the sky called their names, and the feathers rose to meet them. No one ever came twice. The island kept its secret well. Many years later, when Daedalus was an old man, he sailed once more across the Aegean. The sea was still and heavy, as though waiting. He had long since forgiven the gods, and perhaps himself, but not the silence. When his ship drifted near the feathered island, the air changed. Salt turned to sweetness, the wind to memory. He stepped onto the shore, and the ground glowed faintly beneath his feet. Everywhere he looked, feathers swayed like grass, soft light breathing between them. Daedalus fell to his knees. He touched one feather. It was warm. "Icarus," he whispered, "is this what you became?" The island answered not in words, but in wind. A breeze rose from the sea, and for a moment the feathers lifted, like 1,000 wings remembering the sun. As night fell, Daedalus built no fire. He sat among the feathers and listened. The island hummed, a melody too ancient for voice, too tender for grief. He felt it through his skin, through the bones of his hands. A slow, steady rhythm, the same heartbeat that once carried him and his son through the clouds. It was then that he understood. The island was not a tomb. It was a dream still dreaming. Every feather was a prayer, each one holding a piece of Icarus' flight, each one refusing to die. The light within the feather. At dawn, Daedalus woke to find the horizon glowing pale gold. The air shimmered like water turned to glass. He lifted a single feather and held it to the light. Within it he saw motion, a spark, a flame, a heartbeat. The boy was there. Not lost, not gone, but transformed. "You have become the sky," Daedalus said softly, "and I am still learning how to look up." The feather pulsed once in answer. When Daedalus left, the sea was calm. The wind carried him gently, as though the island itself was exhaling farewell. Behind him the feathers swayed. One by one they began to rise, lifting into the air, drifting higher, until they disappeared into the clouds. Those who sailed past the island in later ages spoke of strange light seen upon the waves, of voices whispering through the wind. They called it the island that waits. But the sea called it something else, the memory of flight. Long before Daedalus built his wings, before Icarus took flight, there was a god who ruled the air between the earth and the stars. His name was Icarus, the keeper of dawn and forgotten dreams. He was neither kind nor cruel, only restless. Each day he watched the mortals below, their fires flickering, their prayers rising toward him like smoke. But the prayers were never for him. They were for Zeus, for Apollo, for the bright and famous ones. Icarus, unseen, carried their voices, but none ever spoke his name. He grew jealous of the sun, for it touched all things that he could only move. He envied its light, its warmth, its glory. He longed to be seen. When Daedalus crafted the wings for his son, Icarus was watching. He saw the feathers glinting, the wax shining beneath the sun, and he felt something twist within him, not hatred, but hunger. Here was a mortal daring to enter his realm, a mortal who would know the taste of wind as gods did. Eurus whispered across the waves, his voice a storm no ear could hear. If man can rise to the sun, then what need is there for gods of air? He followed them as they rose, his breath hidden in every gust, his envy coiled around Icarus' wings like invisible fire. 3. The fall and the smile. When Icarus soared too high, Eurus did not warn him. He watched as sunlight devoured the wax, as feathers drifted like snow into the sea. And when the boy fell, Eurus smiled. He told himself it was justice, that mortals should never touch the realm of gods. Yet even as he smiled, he felt something crack inside him. The world was quieter now, the sky emptier, the laughter of Icarus, that bright human defiance, was gone. And in that silence, Eurus heard only his own loneliness. When the sea remembered Icarus' name, Eurus felt it too. The ocean's voice rose like thunder beneath his winds. You envied the sun, said the sea, but it was the mortal who touched it. The god trembled. He who once carried storms now felt small before the tide. He descended unseen to the island of feathers. He stood where Daedalus had wept, and the wind around him stilled. Each feather shimmered faintly, a quiet defiance, a soft rebellion against the sky itself. Eurus knelt. He touched one feather, and for the first time the god of air felt weight. The gift of the wind. When Daedalus departed, Eurus followed his ship, unseen, the breeze gentle as forgiveness. Over the years he carried whispers of Icarus' name. To every sea, every cliff, every dream. He became not the god of envy, but the keeper of flight. Each time a bird spread its wings, Eurus guided it. Each time a child dreamed of the sky, his wind was their soft, invisible kind. One evening, long after the world had forgotten the old gods, a single feather drifted upward, not downward, rising through the twilight. Eurus caught it. The feather glowed with the color of dawn, the same hue as the first sunrise after the fall. He smiled, not with envy, but with peace. For in that moment he understood. The sun burns, the sea remembers, but only the wind carries. He released the feather, and it vanished into the clouds, becoming part of every breeze that ever was. And thus the gods learned from a mortal that flight is not power, it is freedom. Long after Daedalus and Eurus were gone, the world moved beneath their memory. Ages changed, empires rose and fell, but the wind still hummed with a familiar tune, the song of wings, the rhythm of ascent. In the hearts of dreamers and wanderers, something ancient stirred. Each time a child looked at the clouds and wondered what it felt like to fly, the sea shimmered faintly, and a single feather brushed the wind. The story had not ended. It had only changed form. In a forgotten temple by the Aegean, a monk sweeping dust found a single white feather. Resting upon the altar, it glowed faintly, as if the morning light had been caught inside it. He did not know its name, nor its story, but when he touched it, he felt warmth, not fire, but remembrance. That night he dreamed of the sky, a vast expanse of gold and silver, and a boy laughing among the clouds, his arms spread wide as if to embrace the dawn. When the monk awoke, he wept without knowing why. The feather was gone, but the air smelled of salt and sun. Beneath the surface of the Aegean, the sea still remembers the shape of light. Sometimes, when the moon is full, sailors say they see a boy beneath the waves, not drowning, not lost, but rising. His wings shimmer like glass, his smile brighter than stars. The sea parts for him, and the wind bends low, as if bowing to something older than divinity, the courage of a soul that dared to touch the impossible. There are places where stories do not end, only pause, waiting for hearts brave enough to dream again. In those moments between waking and sleep, when your breath slows and the world fades, listen closely. You might hear it, the whisper of feathers, the rush of wind, the heartbeat of the sky. That is Icarus, still flying, not in body, but in every dream that reaches upward, every soul that refuses to fall. Daedalus lived a long life, but in his final night he dreamed of flight. He stood once more upon the cliff of Crete, the sea below gleaming like molten gold. And there was Icarus waiting. The boy smiled. "Father," he said, "it was never the fall that mattered." Daedalus opened his hands. Feathers drifted from his palms like snow, and the wind lifted him gently. Together they rose, not toward the sun, but into light itself. The sky closed behind them, with a sigh of peace. The myth of Icarus was never a warning. It was a memory. Each generation finds it again, in a different form. A painter's brushstroke, a sailor's dream, a voice whispering through the dark. Fly anyway, for the sun does not punish those who rise. It only reminds them to burn brightly, and to love the fall as much as the flight. So when you close your eyes tonight, and the world fades into light, remember, the wings of Icarus still move above you, soft as wind, bright as dawn. The flight never ended. It simply became the sky,